This video is just an extension of the last one. We're going to demonstrate adding and subtracting decimal numbers to the hundredths now. So again, the process doesn't change at all. It's exactly the same as when you learned to add and subtract whole numbers way back in elementary school. So this should be a pretty easy process for you to take on, which is why we aren't spending just a ton of time on it, because I think you just need practice with this. Again, we have our place value chart up to the hundreds now. Actually, we're not going to go up to the hundreds with the high end, but I put it there just so you remember. Tens, ones, there's our decimal. Then we're down to the tenths, or 1 divided by 10, the hundredths, 1 divided by 100, to get to those parts of numbers that we're learning to represent and that you'll be working with for the rest of your math lives. So let's just work through some examples quickly and be done with this. We're going to add 34.38, so 34.38. That's actually 34 and 38 hundredths, if you want to get technical about it. But what's important is that you know the 3 tenths goes into the tenths place, the 8 hundredths goes into the hundredths place. And then what's even more important is when I bring the next number over, 5.23, that we align accordingly. So 5 and 23 hundredths, the 2 tenths we want to have in the tenths column, the 3 hundredths in the hundredths column. It's so important that you line these up, and it's all based on the decimal. You don't really need grid paper or lined paper to do this. You just have to have a good eye, and pretty good handwriting usually helps. But as long as you align the decimals and set them up like that, you should be okay. And then beyond that, it's just the stuff you've been doing for years now. 3 plus 8 is 11. I can only put one digit in each column, so I have to take the 1 from the 11, and then the 10 from the 11. I put it in the tenths column now. So 3 plus 2 is 5, plus the 1 more is 6. Now we're across the decimal, nothing to carry, so that worked out nicely. 5 plus 4 is 9, and then nothing to add to the 3. So final answer, 39.61. Pretty simple there. I didn't even write, so you had to do a lot of carrying. Let's work through another example just to make sure, we're going to subtract one actually. And again, the rule for subtraction is exactly the same. The only thing you really got to be careful of when you're adding and subtracting decimals is lining up the decimals, because that's what assures the right digits are in the right place so that you can add or subtract. Because remember, you can only add and subtract, you can only add units to units, you can only add tens to tens, and you can only subtract tens from tens, you can only subtract units from units. So you have to line it up that way. Multiplication is a little bit different because you do a lot of cross work, but addition and subtraction, that's always true. So we're going to take 34 and 38 hundredths, and we're going to subtract this time, so I'm going to put my minus sign in there. We're going to subtract 15 and 43 hundredths. So everything's lined up. Tenths are in the tenths column, 1 right after the decimal place. Hundredths are in the hundredths column. And again, you know that by position according to the decimal. Everything to the right of the decimal is a part of a number. Everything to the left of the decimal represents whole number portions. And then we all know how to subtract, so we just start in each column. 3 from 8 is 5. Luckily I can do that. 4 from 3, I can't take 4 from 3 because 4 is bigger, so I have to borrow 1 from the 4 and bring it over as 10 times that. So 13 minus 4 now I can do, that's 9. If you have to check a numbers chart or something, if you've forgotten your addition facts, that's fine. Use some sort of tool. Hopefully they come back to you. Now, can I take 5 from 3? No, so I have to borrow 1 from the 3 in the tens place. And that's getting kind of hard to see. I didn't do a very good job of that. That now becomes 13, so 5 from 13 is 8. And then clean it up with 1 from 2, or 2 minus 1 is 1. So the value of that is 18.95. Again, quick reminder, because this is all we're going to do with adding and subtracting decimals. Make sure you line up the decimal places. Now let me show you what that looks like without a grid. So let's take the 34.38 and add it to the 5.23 that we did initially. So I just need to be careful that I align the decimal place, and then everything else after that is stacked. So neatness in handwriting counts, organization counts. If you have sloppy handwriting like me, write big, use lots of paper because that'll help with your organization. You can use graph paper. In fact, I recommend it if you tend to make silly mistakes, because using graph paper to align will help you keep this appropriate alignment to add and subtract decimal numbers. So off to the practice you go. Good luck. I'm sure it'll go really well.